Shashi Tharoor, Congress leader, four-time member of parliament and the head of parliament's panel on external affairs, never fails to hit the headlines. And this time he's made a big statement on Modi's foreign policy when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, a statement that once again may not leave everybody in his party too happy. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. Shashi Tharoor, who is known for his plain speak and who has been in the eye of the proverbial storm in recent months, has once again hit the headlines, this time for his comments made at the Raisina dialogue here in the national capital. Shashi Tharoor, while speaking at a panel on foreign policy, said that today he has egg on his face when he considers the previous positions that he took on India's response to Russia's war on Ukraine. He conceded that the Prime Minister today, as you can see in those pictures, can hug both Putin and Zelensky, and the earlier position that Tharoor took, asking for a more categorical criticism of Russia's response, was misplaced. In fact, he used the phrase egg on my face twice. Shashi Tharoor's comments come on a day when Priyanka Gandhi Vadra seemed to go solo in her response on Israel. Remember, Israeli airstrikes targeted at Gaza in the last several hours have evoked widespread debate across the world. Priyanka Gandhi, who carried that Palestine bag to parliament, today went one step further, accusing Israel of showing a complete lack of humanity. How does one make sense of the differing, very individualistic comments on foreign policy that seem to come out of the Congress party? In particular, the focus is on Shashi Tharoor because he's made no bones about the fact that he's been somewhat marginalized and underutilized in his own party. His next ambition seems to be to want to be the Chief Minister of Kerala. There doesn't seem to be any immediate indication on what Shashi Tharoor will do next, but this is the second time that he has been complimentary towards the Prime Minister. The first time was when he welcomed the outcome of Modi's meeting with American President Donald Trump. How do we understand Shashi Tharoor's comments? Let me introduce our panel on the program today as we decode Brand Tharoor, who seems to be seeking to carve out a path of his own. Sanjay Jha, former Congress spokesperson, is with us. Certainly not anything but a critic of the Modi government, but also a very vocal fan of Shashi Tharoor, an admirer of Tharoor, and often a plain-spoken critic of his own party as well. Joining me now also is Sandip Ghose, someone I always introduce as a fan of the Prime Minister, but not always of the BJP. Good to see you, Sandip. Also joining me is the very blunt-spoken, true to his Punjabi form, Kushal Mehra, who has always a thing or two, never polite, to say about everybody under scrutiny. And we'll see how he decodes Tharoor today. Welcome, Kushal. And also joining me is Dilip Cherian. Dilip is from Shashi's home state of Kerala, but also, of course, is one of the country's foremost brand gurus, image consultants, and political analysts. Welcome, everybody. Let's get it all started by playing out for you what Tharoor actually said. This is a short excerpt of his panel at the Raisina dialogue here in Delhi. Take a look.
Yes, I'm still wiping the egg off my face because I was the one person in the parliamentary debate who actually criticized the Indian position at the time, back in February 22, on the well-worn grounds that Espen will understand, because he and I talked about all this in my UN days, that there was a violation of the UN Charter, that there had been a violation of the principle of the inviolability of borders, of the sovereignty of a member state, namely Ukraine, and we had always stood for the inadmissibility of the use of force to settle international disputes, and all of those principles, I said, had been violated by one party, and we should have condemned it. Well, a couple of years later, 3 years later, it does look like I'm the one with egg on my face, because clearly the policy has meant that India has actually a prime minister who can hug both the president of Ukraine and the president of Moscow 2 weeks apart and be accepted in both places. And therefore, India is in a position where it can make a difference to a lasting peace, if it was so required, in ways that very few countries would be able to.
All right, let's get the conversation going. Sanjay Jha, do those comments surprise you, or do you think once again Shashi Tharoor, no, not a typical politician by any definition, a former diplomat, somebody who has spent time at the UN, the chair of the Parliamentary Panel on External Affairs, is actually, by the way, taking a position that the Congress party has not differed from. Let me make it clear that Rahul Gandhi, on a trip abroad, was asked about India's position on Russia and Ukraine, and I remember Mr. Gandhi very specifically saying, "We're with the government on this." That said, Shashi Tharoor's comments on Modi have been drawing a lot of attention, and this was something close to a compliment, something close to some might even say flattery, that we have a prime minister who can hug both Zelensky and Putin. As someone who supports the Congress party but also supports Shashi Tharoor, how do you respond, Sanjay Jha?
Barkha, firstly, wonderful to be on your show once again. Let me make a disclaimer at the very beginning. Sashi is a very dear friend. He's been a senior and someone whom I hold in the highest respects. Having said that, I need to really be forthright here in terms of Sashi's observations both on Mr. Modi's trip to America, which I thought was an absolutely unmitigated disaster, and also his comments on Ukraine. And let me tell you why I actually disagree with Sashi completely. Number one, I think when you look at Ukraine, anyone who's followed the war will tell you that Russia is the aggressor. Mr. Putin believes that Ukraine should not be on the map and actually needs to be subsumed into Russia. So, as Shashi rightly pointed out in that panel, this is the first time since World War II that we are seeing this kind of a military conquest, literally, and a cross border invasion being done by one country against another sovereignty. Now here is where I feel Sashi probably, he's the head of the external affairs panel, and he has a certain, I would say, still the hangover of being the career diplomat that he has been, and a statesman-like approach to foreign policy. But you are also a politician, and I think to that extent, I think he's been more than charitable to Mr. Modi here, and I'll give you two or three reasons that justify that. Number one, having first, let's establish that Russia has waged a war on a country on which it had no business to do so, no matter what its apprehensions were regarding Ukraine getting a NATO membership. The fundamental point is that so far, around 70,000 soldiers have died in Ukraine, 12,000 civilians. And that civilian story tells you where India is wrong. I remember President Zelensky openly rebuking the Indian government and I think targeting Prime Minister Modi himself when he said that when Mr. Modi hugged Putin in Russia, he said that happened on a day when a children's hospital was attacked by the Russians through a missile attack, and people died. And I think he used very strong words on India. He said it's a devastating blow to peace efforts. So I think if Sashi believes that India has played a really a dispassionate role, the answer is no. And I'll give you the second one, which is quite a shocker actually, that we, along with North Korea, Pakistan, China, and the United States post Trump, actually voted in technically abstained, but we in the UN resolution that talked about de-escalation of hostilities and the end of war in Ukraine, which is frankly speaking bled Ukraine, India abstained, and I think that was a statement of great moral ambivalence, because while Barkha, everyone can go on and on about
Right.
politics, foreign diplomacy, etc., is transactional. Everyone needs to look into their self-interest, etc., etc. Definitely post Trump 2.0. The truth is that India actually had an opportunity, and in both Gaza as well as in Ukraine, to
Yeah.
play a role in as a positive and a constructive
Can I ask you
intermediary.
can I ask you a question? Can I
Yeah,
ask you a
yeah,
question? This is not only about foreign policy, right? This is
yeah.
about politics. And you say that
Exactly.
though Shashi is a friend, you disagree with his comments. Did you see
Yeah.
his comments as praise for Modi that will not be welcomed by the party you support, the Congress party?
Well, I believe, and with the highest respects for Sashi, he's going to watch this program. I'm going to send it to him as well once the recording is done because I'm very transparent with him. I actually have been very critical of Sashi's endorsement of Mr. Modi, even for his visit to the United States, because net I thought India came back literally with his tail behind his hind legs. And even this comment right now on Ukraine, I definitely feel is misplaced. Maybe it's, sometimes it happens, Barkha, that even a most seasoned veteran, when you're in a certain atmosphere and environment where you believe the audience belongs to a certain pro or anti category, you do play to the gallery. Was Sashi doing that? I think he's the best one to answer. But the truth is, Mr. Modi's government, in my opinion, on foreign policy on both Ukraine and Gaza has been subpar, absolutely not justifying India's historical credentials in
But
time of war between different countries.
let's try and come back to the politics with the reminder to you, Sanjay Jha, that Rahul Gandhi did support India's position on Russia. The best I remember, Rahul Gandhi was at a conference outside of India, and I was asked, and he said, "We stand with the government on this." But that said, Tharoor has of course gone, much further. He has actually, as I said, come close to directly complimenting the Prime Minister, both for the outcome of the meeting with Trump and the capacity to hug, as he said, two countries, the heads of two countries at war within a span of a fortnight. Dilip Cherian, do you think Shashi Tharoor has gone too far politically? I'm not making this a conversation about foreign policy, but of course, there's domestic politics at the heart of everything we're discussing. Are you surprised by Shashi's comments, which may look like fulsome praise to some?
I think we need to bring into play the Jai Shankar factor. It is the relationship between the two which played out at Raisina dialogue, I have a feeling. Meaning because Jai Shankar is such a big, shall we say, hovering force over all of what happens in Raisina. That's one. I don't think his comments are correct. His comments he can make, and he has, Shashi has both the wile and the words to justify what he would want to say. My sense is that today we are no longer in a world where the Prime Minister can hug both Zelensky and Putin, especially not after having even gone to America. So my feeling is that Shashi goofed up in terms of politics by trying to say, I'm not really critiquing or criticizing everything the Prime Minister does. I think over-enthusiasm explains a lot in this case. And it's not like Shashi. Shashi is normally very measured. And I take Sanjay's point that, he's also the kind of guy who is willing to hear disagreement. But I don't think that there's going to be, Shashi has made a comment which looks pro-right just now. And he's just emerged out of a comment which was pro-left about the industrial policy in Kerala in a short while ago. So, in many senses, Shashi is forgiven by the fact that he's not taking just the side of the right or the side of the left. He is clearly indicating his judgment on something. Politically, not very wise to wade into this unless he has some bigger agenda. I doubt he does.
So you're basically saying there's no big conspiracy theory here. Shashi is just being Shashi. He's being a somewhat of a flamboyant talker. He's being himself, and he's goofed up in terms of politics. He's been accused of being both too soft on the left government that is at the helm in Kerala, and now he's looking pro-right. So it's a goof up without a larger plan.
Proof of that is the fact that he repeated that wonderfully, college phrase of egg off my face. So it is very clear that he was tripping over his own words.
Right. So this is very interesting. Sanjay Jha thinks that Tharoor's reading is all wrong. Dilip Cherian says he's goofed up in terms of politics. Kushal, Mehra, what do you say?
It says a lot about the expectation from politics in India in general. If we've reached a point in our country where tomorrow a leader might say 1 + 1 is equal to 2. And the opposing side was like, no, it's 3. Why? Because I feel like it today. India incentivizes groupthink, and it's cutting across the political aisles. Spokesperson, I find it laughable when political party spokespersons come on TV and just lie. I'm stating this on the record. I was once offered a spokesperson position, and I said no. And then somebody got their horror and said, "Arey, tum jhoot bol rahe ho, na bol rahe ho?" I said, "Kitna jhoot bolta hai yaar aadmi? Mere se nahi hota itna jhoot bolna." And that's my reason for rejecting that offer. And it's ridiculous. The entire edifice of
But that's the
politics is
nature.
based.
But that's the nature of politics, right? That's not true only of
Not
the
really.
Congress Party.
I think it's not the Congress, or I said Indian politics. I never said the
Yeah,
Congress Party.
sure. Yeah.
It's the nature of Indian politics. It disincentivizes individualism. It disincentivizes politicians sharing their opinion, because we're just a society based on groupthink. It's just from one group think to another group think. How dare you think individually? Tomorrow we might be like, oh, supreme leader of one party likes this movie, so everybody is supposed to like that movie also. It's just a silly system. Shashi Tharoor is just one of the many in the line of Indian groupthink who has to kowtow to this. Arey, tumne hamara political nuksan kara diya. It's just a stupid country. I honestly believe the entire political discourse in
So,
this
so,
country
so,
is
so,
silly.
so, so let me be contrarian here. I kind of agree with you that politics incentivizes individualism, and it's the one reason that at least somebody like me could never be in politics, because I can't toe anybody's line. But would you be so similarly generous, let's say, about Priyanka Gandhi, who has
Oh
tweeted
yeah,
out? So let me ask you that. Priyanka Gandhi, can we
yeah,
bring those slides up? Priyanka Gandhi today appears to have gone solo, not for the first time, on Israel Palestine, right? She took
yeah.
that Palestine back to parliament. And then in a series of comments on social media, she basically said that Israel had shown an absolute lack of humanity, right? Now she's made no one knows, is this the Congress party position or is this Priyanka Gandhi's position? She has an individual position, much like Shashi Tharoor has an
Yeah.
individual position on what Modi has done. If we are going to say, hey, it's okay for Shashi to be an individual, we've got to say it's okay for Priyanka to be an individual. But in terms of hardcore politics, it makes the Congress look like everybody's doing their own thing on foreign policy. So how far
But
can you take individualism, Kushal?
you gotta do it. I mean, at the end of the day, the Congress party can have its official line, the BJP can have its official line, and people can speak as individuals. What kind of a nation or a system we want to build? And this is the same in the BJP. People are not like, you remember what happened with Kangana Ranaut. I'm not endorsing her comments, but she did not toe the party line on many occasions. And everybody was like losing their collective shit on steroids. I was like, "Arey, ye aurat bol gayi. Kya hoga abhi hamara?" This is how it is. It's a stupid. I'll share this small anecdote. When I was in Canada, I remember a couple of years ago, and somebody made a very nasty remark on Rahul Gandhi. Now, I'm not a fan of Rahul Gandhi, but it was in Canada. I stood up for Rahul Gandhi because I was in Canada. I'm not gonna let anybody just get away with it. I stood up for Rahul Gandhi there. Would I do that
Yeah.
in India? No, there my political animal will come in. But I have that sense in me. Where I play Team India is when I'm outside India. Inside India, I'm an individual. I don't care. And this is the stupidity of the Indian political system, where even inside the parliament, look at the whip system we have. Can individual MPs vote against the will of their political party? You're disincentivizing anything that a individual wants to do. Parliamentarians do not represent the will of their people. Parliamentarians in India represent the will of their party, and they're doing an upkar on the people. That's the problem in India.
I think that's very interesting. And in a utopian world, everybody should be allowed to be individuals first and then members of a collective. But Sandeep, we have two completely differing perspectives here. Dilip basically says, without a larger plan, Shashi goofed up. Two sets of comments praising Modi. Earlier, a column that seems to praise his rivals in Kerala. Sanjay says, I disagree with Shashi. He's a pal, but this is too much. And Kushal says, why the hell not? Shashi can have a mind of his own. He's being his authentic self. He's being his own guy. And you know what? So can Priyanka Gandhi. Love her, hate her. She has her own mind. She has been consistent on her positions on Israel, Palestine, actually. It's not the first time she's commenting. Why are we expecting our politicians to be parts of a herd? Do you think that, Kushal's being too romantic and naive about how politics actually is conducted?
I think the common thread between all three of them, common answer to all of them, would be because he's a politician and he's part of a party, and which party where he tries to portray himself as an important voice of that party. He's not just any congressman. He doesn't put himself as, okay, I am also another person in the party. I have my own views. He clearly identifies himself with the party, and he likes to be seen as an important congressman in the current dispensation. So therefore, hearing Sanjay, who is a close friend of Shashi, Dilip, who more than what you told about his Malayali antecedents, Barkha, Dilip shares a further thing of a Malayali brought up in Calcutta. And
Yes.
then Malayali, though in different schools, both of them roughly contemporaries. And Kushal has this different view. But my question would be, if for the same reasons as what they said, if what Shashi is saying is not, which they don't endorse, and in Dilip's case, even more, that he is erring on both sides. He's being an equal opportunity offender, as you would call it. On one
Yeah.
side, he's talking about the left, and the other side is talking about this issue. I personally feel Shashi is very directly teasing his party. He is not going anywhere, but at the same time, he is teasing them, saying that I have a mind of my own to the extent, and I don't necessarily agree with all of you, and to some extent, inviting, Acha, do something to me, and if you were to crack a whip, and then I react. I don't think Sashi's plan is to go anywhere else. Shashi would like to. I don't see if he goes to BJP where he will stand or what he'll gain.
I mean,
But
he's not going anywhere else because he doesn't have a bunch of great options. Let's be
yeah,
real.
great options, and therefore I'm saying if he goes to BJP, he can get a berth or get something. But he doesn't say he's not a Jyotiraditya Scindia who comes with a lot of additional political assets. He's an individual. As an individual, he has something. So whereas Shashi, I think, is far better off being in Congress, and if and when if there is a different axis emerges in Congress, which some people think may emerge, he can stake his claim like he did at the time of the presidential election, as kind of an alternative face within Congress. And last bit, I think therefore these statements are actually directed much more at the coterie surrounding Rahul Gandhi just now, rather than Rahul Gandhi or the party itself.
Let's take that to Dilip and then Sanjay. Dilip, there's two ways of looking at this. One, as Kushal looks at it, look, Shashi has the right to be himself. Priyanka has the right to be herself. Somebody else in the BJP, Hardeep Puri, has the right to be himself. Also, people come from varied backgrounds into politics. They come from varied backgrounds. Everybody's not going to be a cookie cutter version of each other. And in a very deep way, I agree with him, but that's why he and I would bomb in politics, and we should not join it, right? We'd be flops. Now let's come to the real politic of it, right, Dilip? You said he goofed up. Shashi's a really smart guy. Shashi's a smart guy. He's not given to using his words lightly. He's sometimes over clever, like he said cattle class when he was a minister in the UPA, and it got him into trouble. He has this Stephanian propensity. I say this is a person from the same college of wanting to pun on every word. So we can be over clever, too clever for our own good at times. But he's very smart. He's a 4-time MP. He's a smart guy. Are you really saying he made both sets of comments praising Modi without any cognizance of how they'd be perceived?
I think that you need to take the words that matter in this case: whip and whiplash. So Shashi is not aware, and I don't think there is a whip in the Congress party on this issue. We are all kind of whiplashing because it's so unusual for us to observe democracy in real life within a party which is considered moribund and tightly controlled by this coterie. Shashi has a real problem with the coterie. I agree with Sandip on that, and he may be also trying to show, as somebody who has run for the post of UN Secretary General, that my knowledge is better than yours. Mine is bigger than yours, essentially. So he is saying that, hey, you guys don't know how to judge this. Leave it to the expert. I'm the head of the Foreign Affairs Committee. I know what I'm saying. And therefore, if it means I'm ending up supporting Modi and his foreign policy, so be it. As I said, there is also the Jaishankar factor, which is playing into the politics of this. And when we put all that
together... Explain this Jaishankar factor. What is this Jaishankar factor?
Because IFS officers tend to have this kind of, rank hierarchy, who should
This
contradict what. And you can see that in the pronouncements of multiple people on foreign affairs who are in various parties. So they want to show that they are keepers of the flame and only they know how to tend to it. The fact is that geopolitics has been upended with Trump. So, in my view, Shashi's comment isn't even contemporarily correct anymore. So, you know, it's a kind of praise, but does it mean anything in real politic terms? As you asked, Barkha, the answer is no, it doesn't matter any longer because those equations have now changed completely.
Yeah. So Sanjay Jhal, one of our viewers, Prasad, says for the Congress to talk about inner party democracy, big tent at all, it would do the party a world of good to actually take Shashi's side in just giving him the independence to express himself. But if this were truly about inner party democracy, Priyanka saying her own thing on Palestine, Shashi saying his own thing on Russia, Ukraine, then Shashi would not feel a, marginalized within the party, and B, his comments would not create such a flutter. We would accept a political culture, which, as Kushal says, in which it is not unusual or atypical for individuals to have a view. But we are not in that political culture. Let's get real. We are not in that political culture. Whether it's Kangana Ranaut, Shashi Tharoor, or Priyanka Gandhi, we are not in that political culture.
Well, I'm a perfect example of somebody who is a victim of the fact that you don't have a political culture.
That's true.
Uh,
You lost your
yeah,
job
yeah,
over it. Yes, correct.
absolutely, because I believe that this should be a transparent conversation, which is why
Yeah.
I started, by telling you, Barkha, that Sashi's comments, in my opinion, being supportive of Mr. Modi in the United States or believing that he has egg on his face, when I believe Mr. Modi's government has egg on the face for a very disastrous foreign policy, shows a charitable disposition that, frankly speaking, is very extravagant and totally undeserved. And my criticism of Sashi here is because on the merit of his arguments. But I
Hmm.
will agree with Kushal. I think I have said so myself earlier. That does not mean that Sashi should be denied the independence of making his statement, whichever way it is. I'm not getting into the merits of it. I personally disagree with him. And this is the issue that I think the Congress, frankly speaking, needs to actually overcome. Because Sashi's made a statement. We all know he could have been a UN Secretary General. He's best qualified in Indian politics to speak on foreign policy. He's authored some great books, by the way, as well. So I think the bottom line is that the Congress here, which is why I supported Sashi, despite the party going very hammer and tongs on him the last time, because I feel that a party needs to listen to viewpoints and not have
What
this
did you
culture
think?
where
What did you think of Priyanka's comments on Israel?
well, she's been remarkably consistent. I'm going to tell you here that if you were to look at Priyanka's comments on Gaza, she's actually, I personally know her to be extremely empathetic, and she has been more vocal than the Congress party
But
itself.
let me ask you
If
the political question exactly that. This is not her party's position. Should she be
right,
going solo? Now, Kushal will say, why not? But I'm again
well,
asking the political question that I'm asking for Shashi. Should she
yeah,
be going solo? The BJP
I,
isn't
I
going to spare her for this. They're going to
yeah,
demand of the Congress, is this your position?
well, let me tell you that Priyanka going solo or Sashi going solo here is exactly what Indian politics needs to be. There is a party line which Jairam Ramesh and Rahul Gandhi or Mr. Kharge can espouse. And at the same time, there are individuals who have a mind of their own. I'll give you an example. I believe that if Rahul Gandhi said that they stand with the government on Ukraine, and I've given you enough examples to tell you that on Ukraine, I think India has been woefully hypocritical. We have not
Mhm,
even supported UN resolutions on human rights violations. I mean, come
mhm.
on. I mean, I can understand you're playing realpolitik and you're getting cheap oil, but there is a time when you draw the line as to where do you abstain, where do you support, where you're anti. And let me make the last point. Maybe you can ask this question of Sashi in your own follow up. If you look at one reality, Barkha, I believe under Mr. Modi and under Shankar, India has abandoned an extraordinary opportunity to be the leader of the global south. Both Gaza and Ukraine gave India an opportunity. In the Middle East problem, we have literally followed the line of the United States and literally sucked up to Israel. And as far as as far as Ukraine is concerned, I think we have been blatantly, I would say, amorphous and immoral.
Okay. Again, we could have a foreign policy debate on Israel, Gaza, on Russia, Ukraine, but that would perhaps be another show, a different show on India, China. Today, the Polish leaders in Delhi said that China and India had both dialed Putin to say don't use tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. So there's, geopolitics on one side, domestic politics on the other. Sometimes they overlap, Sandeep. The kindness that the BJP and its supporters would show Shashi Tharoor today, would they show similar kindness to Priyanka Gandhi? Could we?
No, I don't think so. As you said, there can be actually, two very different stances. Priyanka Gandhi's stand, they might actually use to pin Congress down to say that whether that's the party's stand. And here in Shashi Tharoor's case, they'll say here there is somebody who actually understands foreign policy, who is this thing. He's saying this, and what is the and ask them what is really the party's stand. You see, that's where Congress is, I think, to some extent changed. In terms of Congress's constitution, from whatever I recall, they used to earlier have their foreign policy cell, they used to have their finance cell, and those sort of people are the ones who made these statements. And today, unfortunately, that is not existing. Everything is being said either by Jairam Ramesh or, Pawan Khera or somebody, and you don't have that. So therefore, if a Shashi Tharoor is asserting himself that, hey, I should be consulted in foreign policy and I should be the spokesperson, I think those are the assertions he is making. And if Priyanka Gandhi is making that statement, I see that quite a bit, as that, again, the Rahul Gandhi style of tearing up the ordinance, that I have a different view. Let the party think anyway, or the so-called government think. And that's kind of making a different sort of a statement about herself. So various dynamics.
But Kushal, those varying dynamics could be called different standards to judge two different people by, depending on how you feel about them. So as Sandip said, Shashi ke bare mein, it can be said that he's got all this background as a career diplomat. Let's take him seriously. What is Priyanka's locus standi? Her locus standi, she would argue, I'm an individual. This is my point of view. The difference is the power dynamic. When Shashi Tharoor says something, no one's going to say, hey, hang on, is it the view of the Congress party? It may be, it may not be, but Shashi Tharoor's view doesn't set the agenda of the Congress. In Priyanka's case, the assumption would be that because she's a member of the Gandhi family, the party has to adopt that position. Do you see, therefore, a bigger problem in Priyanka going solo in this public way before her party does?
No. Honestly, her views on foreign policy are not taken seriously. I mean, I travel enough, I meet enough people. They don't take them seriously, to be very honest. I mean, seriously, if you meet career diplomats, they know the Indian foreign policy line, other than a bit of a deviation on Israel and Palestine. It's pretty much. I've traveled enough now across the world, spoken to enough people to know that they know what the India's foreign policy is transactional. They have one night stands with some people, they have flings with some people, then they just have short-term relationships with some people, and then they move on. That's how Indian foreign policy has always been. It will always be like that.
Strictly non-monogamous, huh?
We don't believe in marrying one person. India has always believed in multiple affairs. And you know what? That's the one thing both the Congress and BJP, credit to both the parties here, I think have been very sensible. Ask someone who lives half the year outside India. That is me. I live outside India. I know how useful India's transactionalism actually is when it comes to foreign policy. I just want to have more fun. I want Sam Petroda to comment now. I think we should have some more spice in life. So thoda time pass ho jayega. That now I think it's the moral responsibility of the entire Indian media to contact Sam Petroda, and he gives some outrageous statement, and all hell breaks loose. And then Jairam Ramesh is writing this lamba tweet. Arey bhai, isko nahi bolo bolle ko. I think we need some spice in life. That's the fun part. I don't know why you guys are so worried. Mr. Tharoor will not create a problem. He has a basic, as far as foreign policy is concerned, Mr. Tharoor has a heft. So he will be taken more seriously because he has a pedigree and a track record. I mean, whatever we might assume domestically, what Priyanka Gandhi says, in the foreign policy world, what she says will not be taken seriously.
Okay, let's do last comments now. I'll start with you, Kushal, since you already have the mic. Shashi Tharoor is a different kind of politician. I always call him one of those rare Congress politicians that the BJP voter kind of likes. You think that's true?
Not just him, there are many, I think, Congress politicians that BJP voters have always appreciated. I think Manish Tiwari is there. I mean, Jyotiraditya Sindhya to abhi BJP mein aa gaye, to otherwise Jyotiraditya Sindhya was one of them. Sachin Pilot is another. I mean, I've spent enough time with BJP people. I'm an open BJP voter, so I know. I mean, I talk to these people. There are few congressmen. I think the BJP's resistance is to the Gandhis. I mean, if you talk to the average BJP leaning person, the resistance is to the family, not to the Congress party. And that is something the Congress is stuck, right? The Congress doesn't know what to do. I don't think so that's the case. I think in India, we have a very reasonable population where people can look across a few things other than the hardline ideologues, जिनकी पता नहीं maybe रोटी पानी लगा होगा दोनों पार्टियों से, बीजेपी या कांग्रेस से. Baki, most Indians are very reasonable. I think they can look past the shenanigans and respect individual leaders. And I'm sure congressmen also look up to some BJP leaders.
Yeah, interesting. Dilip, the question for you is this. If Shashi goofed up, did Priyanka goof up?
Comparing the two is actually tantamount to sacrilege.
By whom? Sacrilege for whom? Not by whom, but for whom?
By you, darling, Barkha. The fact is that you cannot.
But I have no holy cows, right?
You're talking about
I am also that equal opportunity offender.
I don't mind that. All I'm saying is that the only common thing is their resentment to individuals within the Rahul Kotri, and don't ask me to name those. That is quite obvious to those who follow.
You're saying Priyanka also resents the Rahul Kotri?
Some elements of the Rahul Kotri, yes. And the point is that unfortunately those elements don't know and can't figure out many elements of foreign policy. So they are both safe within their grounds. That's the point I'm making. Shashi may have made it, as I said, in flippancy G major, and Priyanka makes it because she enthusiastically has a view in favor of what's going on in terms of supporting Gaza, which a lot of the world is doing, except for Trump and a few others.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you said that Priyanka also resents some members of Rahul Gandhi's coterie. Will you tell us some more?
No, I told you that already. That's not for public discussion. That's for analysis.
Okay, that's over dinner. Sandip Ghosh, here's the question for you. Will there be what happens next? Because is it all a little storm in a teacup? Shashi Tharoor has nowhere to go. Priyanka Gandhi's comments will be discussed for half an evening. Life will carry on. Or what? What do you see as the political consequence of all of this?
Priyanka Gandhi, they can't do anything except if Priyanka Gandhi forces, Jairam Ramesh and others to take a position on it, which I don't think will happen as yet. So she is like a shoot and scoot sort of a thing she will do and get away. Shashi Tharoor, I think they're not going to mess with him. They think that, just like they've done it at the G23 or whatever they had at that point in time, they'll let it die out. And that's why last time when Shashi Tharoor made that comment, Jairam said in Congress there is freedom before speech and freedom after speech, apart from freedom of speech, etc., etc. They'll take one such stand and try to ignore him as long as they can. Till, as I said, Shashi is also, very delightfully teasing them and probably waiting in case there is some kind of a churn inside the party or, some semblance of pushback, etc. Then he will emerge as a more, credible claimant or a serious voice out there.
Sanjay, I want to give you the last word because you've actually made a kind of great suggestion for your party, which is to have at least some version of a shadow cabinet, which would actually put people in spaces where they could actually critique the government with some sense of seriousness, right? Doesn't seem to be happening. Doesn't seem to be the Congress. I don't know. The Congress doesn't seem to be taking itself seriously. Forget Shashi Tharoor and Priyanka Gandhi, right?
Yeah, Barkha, frankly, if there was a shadow cabinet, I would expect Shashi to be the external affairs minister, despite the fact that I don't agree with his views on Ukraine and Gaza at the moment. Now, here is the point. I also don't agree with my good friend Dilip on the fact that, Priyanka's comments on Gaza and a comparison with Sashi's comments is sacrilege. And I'll tell you why, because I've been in politics long enough to tell you that outside of politics, very often we create this massive halo about portfolios. Let's demystify this. Foreign policy, yes, it requires an understanding of history and the intricacies of diplomacy, but it's not rocket science. And truth be said, politicians who very often have been prime minister or even external affairs ministers in the past haven't really had the kind of exposure that Shashi's had. I mean, let's be honest here. Let me call a spade a spade. Did Narendra Modi, as the chief minister of Gujarat, when he became prime minister, he overnight became a complete, master of international,
Yeah,
intrigue and politics?
you develop expertise through
Exactly.
experience. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So Priyanka has every legitimate right. Please, let's not ignore, Barkha, that what's happening in Gaza is pure genocide. And I'm not saying that. It's been said by the United Nations, and the International Criminal Court actually has Benjamin Netanyahu and
But my
and just a minute, and Vladimir Putin marked as war criminals against whom there are arrest warrants,
but
which is
but my
why,
question was political. My
yeah,
question is
I'm
political. My
I'm
question is
coming.
not geopolitical.
Yeah, but I'm coming to that, which is why I'm making a point here that where Dilip and I think, are in agreement here for one singular reason, that when you bring the politics of Sashi's comments, if indeed I could find merit in Mr. Modi's US trip or India's handling of Ukraine, one would have said, no problem. I still believe Sashi has a right to say what he said, and the Congress should not escalate the matter. So that's one part of it. But I do believe that at the moment, the Congress and Shashi Tharoor need to recognize that, it's not about, friends with benefits kind of a situation. Shashi is an integral part of the Congress. He's a great brand ambassador for the party. And while Shashi says what he says, I think there are times you don't heat it up or fuel it up by
Sure.
unnecessarily getting into clarification. That's about it.
Okay, we leave it there. I think the bottom line is this, that, kash hamara political culture aisa hota, where at an individual level, we actually engaged with ideas, spoke more to people we disagreed with, and actually encouraged open discussion within our own parties and organizations. But we do not live in that political culture. And given that both Shashi Tharoor and Priyanka Gandhi know that we do not live in that political culture, their comments do attract a different kind of attention. Leaving it there, Sandip, Ghosh, Dilip, Cherian, Kushal, Mehra, and Sanjay Jha, always a pleasure. To our audience, thank you and see you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.